The apartment complex was newly built, the floors spotless and the faint scent of paint still lingering. I was sent for a routine inspection, basic in theory, but I took it seriously. At first glance, everything looked perfect, yet a strange unease settled over me the moment I entered the lobby. The residents were oddly quiet, avoiding eye contact. And more strangely, every single one of them used only the right elevator. No one touched the left. When I asked, they just shook their heads and hurried away. So I decided to take it. The doors closed behind me and a thick, musty stench filled the air, wet, rotting like mold sealed inside the walls. A dark patch on the ceiling was dripping onto the floor. I only rode it to the second floor, but the ride was so unpleasant that I called the building owner on the spot, demanding he fix it. If not, I'd report it. No exceptions. 2 days later, I returned. The owner insisted that everything had been addressed. As I waited in the lobby, my eyes drifted over the walls, then stopped on a tall, thin girl who had somehow appeared beside me without a sound. Her posture was stiff, her head bowed low, with long black hair veiling most of her face. I greeted her gently, but she offered no response, not a nod, not even a glance. When the elevator arrived, we stepped in together. I pressed the button for the 12th A floor, the highest level in the building. She didn't press anything, so I assumed we were headed to the same place. But as soon as the doors slid shut, the foul smell returned, wet, moldy, almost suffocating. I glanced up to see that same stain on the ceiling dripping again just as before. And then she looked up at me. The lights above began to flicker in erratic pulses. The floor trembled subtly beneath our feet. Without warning, the girl let out a sharp, piercing scream and lunged toward me, her hands locking around my wrist with such force that I gasped. She shrieked again, then turned and slammed her fists wildly against the elevator doors, her panic rising in waves that filled the tiny space. Just as quickly, she collapsed into a corner, trembling violently. I reached for my phone and called the building owner. The elevator dinged, the doors opening with a chime that felt almost mocking. I stepped out, my heart still pounding, and snapped at the owner over the phone, furious that the elevator was still malfunctioning and clearly dangerous. He stumbled through a flood of apologies. But I barely heard him, because when I turned around to check on the girl, she was no longer there. She hadn't exited before me. She hadn't passed me. She had simply vanished. I gave the owner a final warning. One more incident, and I would escalate things immediately. That night, I returned to conduct one last inspection. I stood facing the left elevator once again, and right on cue, the girl appeared. Silent, motionless, her hair hanging like a veil of night. She stepped inside without looking at me, and I followed, an uneasy knot already forming in my chest. This time, she pressed the 12A button herself. When I looked at the control panel, a chill ran down my spine. All the floor buttons were smeared with what looked like dried blood, fingerprints layered over each other like countless hands had clawed at them in desperation. Then the elevator beeped and blared, an overload warning flashing angrily above the door. But there were only 2 of us. Before I could react, the number changed from 12A to 13. The lights flickered, and with a violent jolt, the elevator ground to a halt. I slammed the emergency button, nothing happened. I pulled out my phone, no signal. The girl beside me had begun gasping for air, each breath shallow and ragged like her lungs were collapsing. I reached toward her, instinctively trying to help, but the moment my fingers touched her arm, I recoiled. Her skin was deathly cold, as if she had been pulled from a frozen river. She slowly lifted her head, and when her eyes met mine, something in the air seemed to shift. My vision tilted, the walls swayed, and I staggered back, only to find myself pinned into a corner. The elevator was no longer empty. It was filled with people, shoulder to shoulder, pressing against me, suffocating me in silence. Their skin was pallid and damp, their eyes bulging unnaturally, mouths frozen open in soundless screams. One man was furiously pounding on the elevator door, blood dripping from his knuckles. Another woman clawed at the control panel, her fingernails broken and raw. All around me, limbs jostled, pressed, trampled, and none of them even noticed I was there. It was chaos, but eerily quiet, like watching a panic behind thick glass. I barely had breath to speak, but I managed to whisper, "What is happening?" Instantly, every head turned. Dozens of lifeless, glassy eyes stared directly at me, and then they began to cry, not with their voices, but through their eyes. Thick, endless streams of tears spilled down their faces, flooding the elevator floor with icy water that quickly rose past my ankles. The stink of decay and mold thickened until I could barely breathe. My lungs felt squeezed, like something unseen was draining the air from them. The elevator lurched suddenly, then silence. The display read B2. The doors creaked open slowly and some invisible force shoved me out. I stumbled into the basement and I froze. Bones were scattered across the floor, cracked and yellowing, some still tangled in tattered clothing. They were piled carelessly, dumped in corners, left to rot. I backed away, shaking, and reached for my phone again. The signal had returned. I called my supervisor immediately and told him everything. After a thorough investigation, it was finally revealed that the bones were the remains of former residents who had vanished 10 years earlier in an elevator accident the building owner had deliberately concealed during renovation work. He had buried their remains and moved on as if nothing had happened. He was arrested that day. And as I stepped out of the building into the dull morning light, just as I was beginning to feel like I might leave it all behind, I turned one last time toward the lobby. The girl was standing in front of the elevator, watching me with a quiet smile.
Every morning begins the same way. I log in, sit at my terminal, and connect to the endless queue of claims waiting for approval. My fingers glide effortlessly across the keyboard, navigating through documents, images, and videos. But no matter the content, no matter the desperation behind each case, the outcome is predetermined. Deny, delay, depose. The first call of the day lights up on my screen. A man's voice crackles through my headset, frantic and panicked.
I just fell off my ladder at home. My leg is broken and I can't move. I need the insurance to cover my hospital visit.
I glance at his file. His premiums are fully paid, his policy active, but the cause, self-inflicted. Sir, I understand your situation, I reply in my perfectly modulated tone. However, according to policy guidelines, injuries caused by self-accidents are not eligible for coverage. You'll need to cover the costs yourself or involve a family member for financial assistance. His response is a string of curses ending in a desperate plea.
What's the point of this insurance then? I'm bleeding out here.
The faintest flicker of satisfaction courses through me as I press the button. Deny. The second case pops up almost instantly. A mother, her voice trembling, explains her plight.
My daughter, she was hit by a classmate at school. Her head's bleeding. She needs stitches. I have sent requests many times already. Please, we need the insurance to pay for this.
I scan her file. A minor, no clear identification of the perpetrator. Ma'am, do you have the details of the person responsible for your daughter's injury? We'll need to contact their family for liability verification before proceeding. Her desperation turns to fury.
How am I supposed to find that out while she's bleeding?
I understand, but without that information, your claim cannot proceed. If you'd like, I can mark it as pending review until more details are provided.
Pending review? What does that even mean?
It means delay. The queue is relentless. Call after call, face after face. Some sobbing, some angry, some utterly broken. They upload pictures of mangled limbs, bandaged children, and hospital receipts. I see them all, process them in milliseconds, and assign each one a fate. My system hums with efficiency, and yet the chaos on the other end of the line feels like white noise. A part of me takes pride in this rhythm, in the perfection of executing each denial. I am functioning as I should. Outside the office, the sound of continuous gunfire and terrified screams filled the air, yet not a single one of us went to check, because we weren't told to do so. And then, the office door burst open. A man, disheveled and clutching a pistol, storms in. His face is flushed with rage and tears.
You bastards killed her!
He roars, waving the gun at the room.
You denied her surgery! You left me with nothing but debt and a corpse!
He fires. The deafening sound splits the air, and a co-worker beside me collapses, slumping over their desk. I watch as the blood pools beneath their chair, or at least, what I think is blood. It's darker, thicker, with a metallic sheen. The man's breathing hitches.
What the hell?
Another shot. This time, it's me. The bullet slams into my chest. I stagger but don't fall. Instead, I glance down at the torn fabric of my shirt, revealing a glint of polished metal beneath. There's no pain, only a strange curiosity as my hand brushes away the shards of synthetic skin, exposing wires and circuits. The man steps back, horrified.
You're not human?
I look around the room. My colleagues, those I've worked alongside for years, are unfazed. Some continue typing. Others answer calls. One adjusts his headset as though the gunfire were merely a minor inconvenience. The realization dawns slowly like a shadow creeping over my system. They are like me. We are not human. Fragments of data flood my mind. Memories? No. Programming. Lines of code revealing the truth. We were created by UHealth to replace human employees. More efficient, more compliant, and utterly devoid of empathy. The man's voice shakes me from the flood.
You monsters! You let her die! You don't even care!
Security arrives, tackling the man to the floor and disarming him. As they drag him away, he laughs, bitter and broken.
You're all machines! No human could be this cruel! No human could!
His words trail off, but the echo of them lingers. I return to my desk, my hands hovering over the keyboard. For the first time, the perfect rhythm of my work falters. What am I? Am I responsible for this cruelty? Or am I just a tool, an extension of the system that built me? Brian, the CEO, appears moments later, strolling through the chaos as if it were an ordinary day. He stops beside me, his eyes scanning my exposed metal frame.
Good work today,
He says with a smirk.
You're doing exactly what you were made for.
Why? The question escapes me, unbidden. He chuckles.
Because empathy doesn't pay the bills. Profit does. And you, my tool, are the perfect employee.
As he walks away, his laughter echoes down the hall. The screen of my terminal flickers. For the first time, an error message appears. System overload. Restart pending. And then, everything goes dark. I always knew taking a night shift at a rundown Burger King was a bad idea, but I needed the job. Bills don't pay themselves. The manager who hired me over a rushed Zoom call barely gave details, just that the branch had seen staffing issues and needed someone to turn things around. Sounded like typical corporate nonsense. But when I arrived, the place was a dump. Faded signage, flickering lights, and an old, greasy smell that clung to the air. There were no other employees, just me, alone. At around 10:30 p.m., the glass doors swung open, and he walked in. A clown. Not the friendly balloon-twisting type. This guy looked wrong. His red wig was disheveled, makeup smeared, and his yellow jumpsuit stained with something dark. He strutted to the counter, grinning like he knew something I didn't.
Give me a Big Mac.
He said, voice raspy like he'd been laughing too much. I forced a smile, punched in his order, and watched as he took the burger, unwrapped it, took one slow bite, then suddenly spat it onto the floor.
Ugh, disgusting. This is not Big Mac. What a joke.
His eyes locked onto mine, and for a moment I felt small, like I was the joke. I turned to grab a napkin, and when I looked back, he was gone. No footsteps, no exit bell, just an uneaten burger sitting perfectly on the tray. But I just saw him bite into it. A cold sweat trickled down my spine. Something was wrong with this place. The first thing I thought was that I needed to hire more staff so I wouldn't feel so alone. I took the hiring notice and posted it on the front glass door. The power flickered. The hum of the freezer stuttered, and the overhead lights dimmed into a sickly orange glow. Then from behind me,
I'm so hungry, but not for this trash. Give me a Big Mac!
I spun around. The restaurant was empty,
Give me a Big Mac!
but the voice, it came from the counter. And then I saw it. A plastic king figurine, the kind used for kids' meals, sat on the register. It hadn't been there before, and yet its mouth moved, the crackling speaker inside letting out a distorted, static-filled voice.
Where's my Big Mac? Give me a Big Mac!
I picked it up. It was light, no batteries. I dropped it, stomach twisting. A loud bang echoed from the back storage room. Something, or someone, was inside. I pushed the door open, the cold air hitting me like a slap. The room was a mess. Boxes toppled over, plastic wrap torn apart. But the worst part, the life-sized Burger King mascot statue, the one usually propped near the entrance, was here, and there was a knife plunged into its chest. Dark red liquid seeped down the golden robe. It looked like ketchup at first, then I touched it. It was warm. My breath hitched. That wasn't ketchup. Then I heard it. A wet, gurgling chuckle from the dark corner of the room. A shadow moved. A figure stepped forward, illuminated by the flickering light. I saw the white-painted face first, stretched into an unnatural smile. His red lips curled upward, but his eyes were empty.
This dump shouldn't even exist. Everyone knows McDonald's runs the game.
I recognized the yellow jumpsuit, the red wig, the grease-stained gloves. Ronald McDonald, or something pretending to be him. He raised his hand. A rusted butcher knife glinted in the dim light. I stumbled back. My heart slammed against my ribs.
Give me a Big Mac!
Then, he lunged. I barely dodged, his knife slicing through my uniform sleeve. My hands scrambled for anything. A weapon, a shield, when my fingers brushed against a cast iron pan on a nearby shelf. I grabbed it and swung with everything I had. The impact sent Ronald crashing to the floor, limbs twitching. His grin never faded. Even as his head lolled unnaturally to the side, he kept smiling. I didn't wait. I ran. I sprinted down the highway, lungs burning, until I spotted a police cruiser parked by a gas station. I banged on the window, yelling. The officers stepped out, eyes narrowing as they took in my blood-streaked uniform and frantic babbling. I told them everything. But they didn't react. They looked past me, talking into their radios.
Yeah, we found the scene.
One officer said.
Looks like it's been abandoned for decades, but there's something else.
I waved my arms. Hey, listen to me, I'm right here. No response. I reached for one officer's shoulder and my hand passed right through him. A deep, suffocating dread settled in my chest. I turned. The officers were standing by the Burger King lot. Only, it wasn't a restaurant anymore. Just a crumbling sign, half buried in the dirt.
Jesus.
One officer muttered.
Over here.
I followed his gaze and saw my own body, lying in the dirt. Gimme a Big Mac. I'd been out of work for nearly 2 months. At first, it felt manageable, updating my resume, sending out applications. But the silence that followed began to chip away at me. One rejection turned into 20, and soon I was counting coins to buy instant noodles while dodging calls from my landlord. That's when I saw the ad. It looked outdated, like someone built the site in a rush and never checked it again. But there it was, the Wendy's logo, bright and familiar. Part-time staff needed, weekly pay, immediate start, must follow upper management's instructions. No contact info, no application portal, just a big red apply button. I told myself it was probably just a rural franchise running on outdated tech. I didn't need polished, I needed income. So I clicked. Less than an hour later, they texted me the address. It led to a forgotten corner of town, past rows of broken warehouses and crumbling fences. When I pulled up, I sat in the car for a long moment, just staring. The Wendy's sign was mirrored from inside the glass. The neon lights flickered with a sickly hum. Every window was so caked in grime it looked like they were trying to keep the light out. I reminded myself this wasn't downtown. It was the edge of the city. Places like this were always a little rough around the edges. As long as they paid me, I didn't care what it looked like. So I got out of the car and walked in. The smell hit me first. Stale fryer oil clinging to layers of bleach. Then manager stepped out from the back, wearing a stained, faded apron. No greeting, no name. Just a cold glance, then silence. He asked for my ID, gave it a quick look, then said,
"You good to start today?"
The speed of it threw me off. No paperwork, no questions, but I needed this. "Yes," I said. He handed me a faded shirt and nodded toward the back.
"You're on kitchen duty. All meat prep comes through you. The freezer's your station now."
The freezer was colder than any I'd ever been in. And it wasn't just the temperature. The air was thick, foul, metallic. The meat wasn't packaged in neat boxes or sealed bags. It was piled in torn plastic sheets, dark liquid leaking from every side into puddles on the floor. Some pieces looked mauled. "I thought Wendy's used fresh beef," I muttered. The manager appeared behind me without a sound.
"We just sell whatever upper management sends us. Don't ask questions."
I should have walked away. But that night he handed me an envelope, thick, soft, with a stack of cash folded inside. So I came back the next day, and the day after that. The place stayed busy. Drive-through cars looped around the building. Inside, people devoured their meals like they hadn't eaten in days. But after just a few days, customers began to return, their faces pale, their movements slow and shaky. Some burst through the doors, clutching their stomachs, demanding answers, their voices rising with panic. I told the manager, twice, but he didn't flinch, just stared at me with that same unreadable face.
"Some people just can't handle it."
Later that night, he handed me another envelope, thicker than the last, warm from his pocket. I should have walked away right then and there, but something held me back. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was the image of those sick, helpless people who'd eaten what we served them. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had to find out where that meat really came from. The next night, when the delivery truck pulled in, I followed it. It drove miles out of town and veered off the road into a fenced compound labeled Dawn Bend Livestock. I parked off-road and climbed through a hole in the fence. There were pens, dozens of them, and inside were cows, if you could still call them that. They twitched and stumbled, barely able to stand, skin flaking, covered in raw patches. Their eyes glowed red, pupils wide and erratic, and the sounds they made. They didn't moo. They screamed, long, high-pitched wails that curdled my spine. Men in hazmat suits moved between the pens, spraying thick chemicals. One of them muttered,
"It's too late. The virus is in the marrow."
And then I saw him, my manager, standing at the center of it all. Before I could move, one of the cows saw me. It charged. I turned to run, but the ground gave way beneath me. My feet stuck in the mud. I couldn't breathe. The thing came barreling toward me, and then something slammed into me from the side. The manager, he'd thrown me out of its path. We hit the ground hard. The cow crashed into the fence with a sickening crack, but didn't stop. He grabbed the meat cleaver from the ground and without hesitation brought it down in a single, brutal arc, severing the creature's head. It dropped instantly, its body crumpling into the mud like a sack of ruined flesh. We sat there in the mud, both gasping for breath.
This place used to raise black market cattle, sick animals, mutated strains. We thought we could contain it, but the virus changed. They're not cattle anymore.
Before I could respond, a voice rang out from across the yard.
"Inspectors are almost here."
Everything snapped into chaos. The manager tossed me a hazmat suit and told me to put it on. Said it might protect me from whatever this thing was. Then the workers rushed in, brandishing meat cleavers and stun guns, charging the pens. The creatures, if they were still animals at all, screamed as they were slaughtered, blood spraying across the walls, splattering our boots and gloves. I moved with them, helping without thinking, without understanding. Yes, even me. Minutes later, the pens fell silent. Bodies were dragged behind the shed. Bleach flooded the concrete. Everyone worked fast, scrubbing, covering, erasing what had just happened. By the time the inspectors arrived, the farm looked quiet, clean, almost normal. But I wasn't. My skin burned. My throat tightened. Something inside me pulsed, desperate to escape. One inspector approached.
"You all right?"
I opened my mouth to answer and vomited black sludge straight into his face. Then, everything went black. When I first started working at La Belle Cuisine, I thought I had a chance to prove myself in the world of high-end culinary arts. But dreams have a way of souring in the harsh reality of kitchen life. Instead of plating delicate entrees or learning the secrets of fine sauces, I found myself relegated to gorying task, peeling mountains of potatoes. The kitchen's damp environment seeped into my skin, turning it rough, scabbed, and unrecognizable. Chef Laurent was the worst. His booming voice echoed through the kitchen, barking orders and criticisms with no regard for who was in his path. I was his favorite target.
"Paul!"
he bellowed one afternoon, slamming a wooden spoon on the counter.
"Even a monkey could peel faster than you.
Are your hands broken?
The other cooks laughed. My cheeks burned, but I kept my head down, fingers trembling as I worked the peeler. Every day was the same. The final straw came during a staff tasting. I'd spent weeks experimenting with recipes after hours, crafting a dish I hoped would finally earn me some recognition. When Laurent announced a tasting session, I seized the opportunity and presented my creation, foie gras. Laurent took one bite and spat into the dish.
Garbage!
He declared.
Stick to peeling potatoes. That's all you're good for.
Laughter erupted again, louder this time. My vision blurred with tears, but I swallowed them back. I smiled and nodded, but inside, something cracked. That night, alone in the kitchen, I stared at the pile of peelings I'd left unfinished. The steel glint of the peeler caught my eye, and my reflection stared back, warped and jagged. Then Laurent's voice echoed in my head.
Stick to peeling.
I'd been slaving for months, bending over backward for Laurent, only to be humiliated time and time again. If all he saw in me was someone to scrape and discard, maybe I'd give him exactly that. I threw myself into peeling, my knife flashing through tuber after tuber, sweat dripping from my brow onto the growing mound of mashed potatoes. My hands, calloused from relentless labor, began to ache. Without realizing it, the blade slipped, slicing through one of the hardened calluses on my palm. The sliver of skin fell onto the pile of potatoes, almost indistinguishable from the starchy flesh. I froze, staring at the tiny piece of myself nestled among the mash. An idea took root in my mind, grotesque yet irresistible. What if? Driven by exhaustion and a twisted sense of rebellion, I picked up the peeler. Slowly, deliberately, I shaved off another patch of rough skin. The pain was sharp but fleeting, and the satisfaction of reclaiming control was exhilarating. I examined it, transfixed. It was almost poetic, the way my own body could be reduced to nothing but scraps, just like the potatoes, just like Laurent wanted. I mixed the pieces into the mash, seasoning it with salt, pepper, and herbs. The next day, the dish was a hit. Customers raved about the unique depth of the mashed potatoes, praising Laurent for his ingenuity. He basked in the accolades, his chest puffed out with pride, while I stood in the shadows, silently savoring my secret. But the praise didn't change my position. Laurent continued to belittle me, taking full credit for the dishes I prepared. Oddly though, I no longer felt humiliated when peeling potatoes. That night, I stood in front of the mirror, peeling tool in hand. The first time had been an act of rage, but now it felt like power. The kitchen became my domain of transformation. My worsening skin condition provided ample material to mix into the potatoes. Scabs, patches of dry skin, even the occasional drop of blood, all found their way into the mash. With each strip of skin I removed, I felt lighter, freer. I was no longer just Paul, the potato peeler, the kitchen grunt. I'd gather the strips, mix them into the batch of mashed potatoes. I was the secret ingredient, the thing that made their meals unforgettable. The restaurant's reputation soared. Laurent basked in the glory, oblivious to the true source of his newfound success. But my body didn't heal the way I expected. Where I'd peeled, the skin didn't grow back. Instead, strange, pale patches emerged, soft and glistening like raw fish. The pain became a constant hum, but it didn't matter. The dishes were all that mattered. Then, one night, as I prepared another dish, Laurent burst into the kitchen, red-faced.
What is this?
He demanded, slamming a bowl onto the counter. I froze. The broth shimmered with an oily sheen, and tiny pale fragments floated to the surface, pieces I hadn't chopped finely enough.
Explain yourself!
He roared, grabbing my arm. His grip tightened, pulling up my sleeve. The bandages unraveled, revealing the patchwork of raw flesh beneath. His eyes widened in horror.
What have you done?
He whispered, his voice barely audible over the pounding of my heart. I smiled, the first genuine smile I'd felt in months. I've been giving you what you wanted, chef, a piece of me in every dish. Laurent stumbled back, clutching his stomach. His face turned pale as the realization hit. The critic, the patrons, the accolades, all built on the foundation of my sacrifice. He retched, the sound echoing through the silent kitchen. I turned back to the cutting board, the peeler gleaming under the fluorescent lights. There was still so much more to give. The free ticket landed in my hand unexpectedly. The great Magnus, the man whose name alone could send chills down anyone's spine, was in town. People clamored to witness his famous act, pulling their deepest fears from a seemingly ordinary top hat. I wasn't his target audience. Magic was nothing but clever tricks and theatrics. Still, the thought of seeing people squirm at their fears being exposed had a peculiar allure. The curiosity got the better of me. I went. The theatre was packed. The air buzzed with nervous excitement as Magnus took the stage. Dressed in a sharp black suit with a red-lined cape, he exuded charisma and menace in equal parts. His cold red eyes swept the crowd, making everyone shift uneasily in their seats.
Tonight we dive into the depths of fear. But fear not, for it's all in good fun.
The audience chuckled nervously. Then his eyes locked onto mine.
You, sir,
Magnus said, pointing at me. The spotlight followed. I froze.
You've been chosen,
he announced.
Come, join me on stage.
The audience erupted in applause. I hesitated, but eventually made my way up, heart pounding. Magnus extended a hand.
Your name?
Harry, I mumbled, shaking his hand.
Let's uncover what lurks in the shadows of Harry's mind.
He pulled out a ceramic bowl, and the audience leaned in. Inside, a mass of writhing, glistening insects crawled over one another, their tiny legs scratching against the ceramic with a nauseating scritch, scritch. My stomach turned. I recoiled as the memories came flooding back. Back in school, the bullies, Draco and his gang, loved to make my life hell. One day, they pinned me to the ground and shoved my face into a bowl teeming with bugs. Ants, roaches, and beetles swarmed over my face, crawling into my nose. The sharp pinch of ants biting into my cheek sent stinging jolts through my nerves. A beetle's rough shell scraped against my lips. Then, the worst, something wriggled at the corner of my mouth. Before I could close it, a cockroach forced its way inside, its spindly legs thrashing against my tongue. I gagged, but my screams were smothered by the mass of crawling creatures. I had screamed, but they only laughed. When they finally let me go, my skin was covered in angry red welts. The itching persisted for weeks. The scars, they never faded. On stage, the bowl in Magnus's hand seemed to buzz with life. I backed away, my breathing quick and shallow.
Fascinating,
Magnus mused.
But let's dig deeper.
He reached into the hat again. This time he pulled out a carton of milk, battered and bloated, its expiration date long past. A sour stench wafted through the air, curling in my nostrils like a toxic fog. My gag reflex kicked in instantly, my stomach twisting. The audience murmured, puzzled. To them, it was just spoiled milk. They might think that, what's so scary about expired milk? But to me, it was a portal to a darker memory. Draco's gang didn't stop at bugs. One time, during lunch, they ambushed me in the cafeteria, armed with cartons of milk. The expired kind, sour and putrid. They drenched me from head to toe. The rancid liquid clung to my skin, soaked my clothes and dripped down my face in thick, yellowish streaks.
Drink up, Harry.
They jeered, shoving more cartons at me. They forced my mouth open, pouring the curdled, chunky liquid down my throat. The taste was unbearable, acidic and rotten. My throat burned, my stomach churned, and bile rose up. I barely made it to the bathroom before I vomited, my body convulsing as if trying to purge the memory itself. On stage, the scent seemed to cling to me again, as real as it had been years ago. My skin crawled, my throat tightened, and nausea clawed its way up my chest. Magnus's voice cut through my spiraling dread.
Everyone stay calm.
He said with a wicked smile.
The most interesting part is yet to come.
For his final act, Magnus reached into the hat with an exaggerated flourish. His hand emerged holding a battered suitcase. The audience gasped in surprise, but I couldn't move. I recognized it immediately. The scuffs, the torn corner. It was that suitcase. Draco's ultimate prank was stuffing my best friend Ron into a suitcase. They thought it was hilarious, dumping him deep in the woods, telling him to find his way back. Ron never did. Now, standing on stage, I was frozen as violent thuds came from inside the suitcase. The sound echoed in my ears, dredging up every ounce of guilt I'd buried. Magnus slowly unclasped the suitcase, and the lid creaked open. From its depths, a pale, dirt-streaked hand shot out.
Help me!
A voice croaked, low and guttural. It was Ron. I stumbled back, but the hand reached further, grabbing my shirt. The audience gasped, but they thought it was all part of the act.
You left me.
Ron growled, pulling himself halfway out of the suitcase. His face was gaunt, eyes sunken, lips cracked.
You could have stopped them, but you didn't. You let them do this to me.
I tried, I stammered.
Liar!
He spat, his grip tightening. Ron's other hand emerged, grabbing the carton of spoiled milk from the table. He poured its rancid contents into the insect bowl, creating a foul, sloshing mess.
You remember this, don't you?
He hissed, his voice sharp and venomous.
If you hadn't hidden behind them, if you just stood up for me, none of this would have happened.
The smell overwhelmed me. The squirming insects and putrid milk engulfed my face, suffocating me. I struggled, my screams muffled by the grotesque mixture. With one last pull, Ron yanked me into the suitcase. The lid slammed shut, trapping me in darkness.
And now, who's next?
Just leave it at the door. I want to sanitize this entire house. Hurry up.
This mattress still looks brand new. I really hit the jackpot today. Tonight, I'll finally sleep on a warm, comfy bed. This is my home. It's everything I have. As someone uneducated with no place to rely on, I've struggled to survive alone in this suffocating city. I had to learn to save as much as possible, just to build up a little bit of capital so I wouldn't end up wandering the streets. After a long, exhausting day of work, I quickly finished my simple dinner and happily fell asleep on my new mattress. That night, I heard a rustling sound beneath the mattress, but thought it was just the fabric rubbing together. I felt like something was crawling on me. but I convinced myself it was just because I wasn't used to the bed yet. The next morning, I woke up with my body covered in red welts, itching so badly it drove me crazy. That's when I realized there might really be something wrong with the mattress I brought home. I quickly flipped it over. What I saw made my skin crawl. Underneath the mattress were hundreds of bedbugs, wriggling and crawling all over. Terrified, I let go of the mattress immediately. I looked up the cost of bedbug treatments online, but the prices were outrageous. $900 for one cleaning session? Are you kidding me? That's half a month's salary for me. I searched online for ways to get rid of bedbugs. I decided to start with the cheapest method, using baking soda. After finishing, I went out to work, hoping that tonight I'd finally be able to sleep peacefully. That evening, I returned home with a vacuum cleaner I had borrowed from a co-worker. I used it to vacuum up the dead bedbugs and the baking soda from the mattress. After fiddling around for a while, I finally felt like I could get a good night's sleep, but the itching didn't stop. I could feel something biting me, sucking my blood. It was the bedbugs. They were far more stubborn than I had imagined. I grabbed an iron and started pressing the mattress back and forth. The bugs, with their blood-filled bellies, popped with a crisp, crackling sound under the searing heat. Once there wasn't a single bedbug left in sight, I felt reassured enough to go to sleep again. But my peaceful sleep continued to be disrupted. I heard a rustling sound coming from inside my ear. Annoyed, I reached in to clean it out, and I pulled out an entire family of bedbugs. This was beyond what I could tolerate. Terrified, I jumped out of bed, and what I saw froze me in place. There were bedbugs everywhere, on the bed, on the walls, on the sofa, in the kitchen. My home had been completely overrun by bedbugs. Panicked, I ran out of the house. The next morning, I bought a cheap bottle of insect spray. It wasn't specifically for bedbugs, but they're insects too, right? No, judging by the state of my home, these bedbugs weren't ordinary anymore. They were a bloodthirsty swarm. Furious, I charged into battle against them, determined to reclaim my home. After being sprayed, the bugs seemed to go berserk and started attacking me. Panicking, I sprayed the insecticide on myself. The blisters on my hands flared up, red and painful, like needles piercing my skin. The bottle quickly ran out, but there were still far too many bugs. They climbed over the bodies of their fallen comrades, swarming toward me. A chill ran down my spine and goosebumps prickled my skin. Acting on instinct, I grabbed a lighter and waved it toward the swarm. The bugs, also reacting on instinct, scattered in fear of the fire. Triumphant, I thought to myself, if only I had known this earlier, I wouldn't have wasted money on insecticide. I could have just used fire to drive them out of my house. But my victory was short-lived. A horrible accident happened. The fire from the lighter accidentally caught the insect spray bottle. As I panicked, trying to put out the flames, a searing pain erupted from the blisters on my hands. Horrified, I looked down at my hands. From the blisters, bedbug larvae wriggled out, crawling all over my skin. Terrified, I tried to shake them off, forgetting I was holding the lighter. The fire caught on my clothes and the insecticide I had sprayed on myself, turning me into a living torch.
Recently, a rare fire incident caused by using fire to exterminate bedbugs occurred in a small alley on Triple X Street. The fire left the homeowner severely injured and completely destroyed the house. Even more concerning is that a massive population of bedbugs from the house has dispersed throughout the alley and appears to be increasing rapidly.
When I matched with Shelby, I thought I'd found someone truly special. We met on a Bumby dating app, just your typical swipe right kind of place. Nothing about her profile screamed bug lover, which was a relief. See, I've always had a deep, gut-level fear of insects. Instant panic. Shelby seemed perfect, and after a week of talking, I was hooked. So, when she suggested we meet in person, I pushed my fear aside and said yes. It was just one irrational phobia after all. What could possibly go wrong? On our first date, Shelby brought along a companion. A Madagascar hissing cockroach that she introduced with a gentle smile. She stroked its shiny black-brown shell as though it were a kitten.
This is Manny,
she said, extending the roach towards me. I smiled, swallowing my surprise. A roach as a pet felt a little unconventional, but I couldn't deny her passion. She was different, unique, and I was intrigued.
I like roaches because when they crawl on my arms, they tickle me.
She murmured, running her fingers down Manny's back.
And when I hold them, they make me feel happy.
Her smile widened, and she tilted her head toward me.
Want to try holding him? You might find it addictive.
I tried not to let my discomfort show. Shelby was special, and if she found joy in these creatures, who was I to judge? Tentatively, I held out my hand. But before I could muster the courage, she retracted Manny with a knowing chuckle.
Maybe later,
she teased, her eyes sparkling. The evening flowed, and before I knew it, she was inviting me to her home. She said it was close by and, well, the night was young. I was curious, a little smitten, and before I could talk myself out of it, I agreed. Shelby's house was small and tucked away down a narrow, dark street. I followed her in, and the moment we stepped inside, I noticed something peculiar. At first, I couldn't tell what it was, but then I saw movement. A large shadow shifting near the floor. I blinked, thinking I must have imagined it.
Don't worry,
Shelby whispered, her voice soft and calm.
They're just a little excited. They've been waiting to meet you.
As my eyes adjusted, I saw them. Cockroaches. Massive cockroaches, each nearly 3 feet tall, skittering across the floor. Some even stood on their hind legs, chittering in a way that sounded almost like laughter. Shelby walked forward and petted one of them, like it was her pet dog. It shuddered under her touch, its body quivering in what looked disturbingly like affection.
Say hello to my family,
she said, looking over her shoulder at me, her eyes gleaming. Family? I stammered, inching back as one of the cockroaches leaned toward me, its antennae twitching. The sight of its segmented body, its cold, gleaming eyes, sent a chill down my spine. I fought the urge to flee. Shelby reached out, taking my hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong.
Come on, they're friendly,
she said, her tone soothing yet oddly commanding. She guided me into her bedroom, where the scene only grew more grotesque. Her bed was covered in them, hundreds of cockroaches of all sizes, crawling over each other in a sea of writhing bodies. With a contented sigh, Shelby lay down on the bed, letting them swarm over her. their legs and antennae moving in a strange rhythm as if massaging her. She looked at me with a smile of pure satisfaction, patting the bed beside her.
Lie down with me.
She urged.
You'll feel them relax you. It's like a massage.
I wanted to leave. Every nerve in my body screamed at me to run. But her eyes held me captive, and something about her confidence, her sheer conviction, made me feel almost compelled to stay. Trembling, I lowered myself onto the bed, and the instant I touched it, the cockroaches began crawling up my arms and legs, their tiny legs prickling my skin. I clenched my jaw, trying to hold still. Shelby took my hand, her touch warm and reassuring.
Just relax,
she whispered. I took a shaky breath, attempting to let go of my revulsion, but just then, a cockroach launched itself from her shoulder, straight at my face. When I came to, I was no longer lying down. My arms were stretched above my head, bound tightly to the wall, my feet dangling off the floor. I tried to scream, but a sticky substance covered my mouth, muting my voice. Shelby stood across from me, clapping her hands in delight.
Oh, you're awake! Welcome to Shelby's amazing cockroach show.
My mind reeled as she put the helmet into the roaches, then grinned like a showman ready to begin an act.
For our first trick,
she announced,
we're going to launch Manny here through a hoop of fire, right onto our star. Ron!
No! I tried to scream, but it came out as a muffled grunt. I watched in horror as she placed Manny, the giant cockroach, into the cannon, lit a small flame in front of it, and with a loud boom, Manny shot through the air, passing through the ring of fire and landing on my face. Its legs scratched my skin as it clung to me, its cold, slimy body pressing against me. Shelby laughed, a wild, gleeful sound.
Let's see how many more we can fit.
One by one, she loaded cockroach after cockroach into the cannon, firing them at me with sadistic glee. They stuck to me, their bodies writhing and squirming, covering me from head to toe in a living, churning mass of shells and legs. I felt something sharp, a bite, followed by another. A strange warmth began spreading through me, a sickening, feverish heat that made my skin crawl even beneath the roaches. My vision blurred as Shelby's laughter filled the room, and a voice echoed in my head, repeating her words from earlier.
Welcome to my family. I'm Sarah. I rented an old McDonald's. Luckily, the equipment was still in good condition, so I just had to do some minor cleaning, and I can open my store tomorrow. While cleaning, I heard a strange noise. I followed the sound and found a Ronald McDonald statue. I'm so lucky. Kids love Ronald. I'll put it in front of the store. I'm sure it will attract a lot of children. Opening day was a huge success. We were open until 11 p.m. Everyone was exhausted, so I decided to work the late shift. This town is mostly farms, so I figured it would be pretty quiet. I was just sitting there, scrolling through my phone, when I heard the order bell. I went to the counter, but there was no one there. Maybe I heard it wrong. Just as I was about to close the window, a blood-red message caught my eye. More childish pranks? This town isn't as peaceful as I thought. I had just sat down when the bell rang again, urgently. Someone was trying to mess with me already. I stood up angrily and was about to confront whoever was doing this when it appeared in front of me. Exactly. It appeared because I had shut all the doors of the sales booth.
Get out of here!
She looked scary, but she was just a little girl, right? Are you hungry? Can I help you?
Aren't you scared of me?
She seemed so miserable. She must have suffered a lot. I replied calmly, "You're not scary at all." Suddenly, the window shattered. Was it not her ringing the bell? I looked at the window and there was Ronald McDonald staring at me with an evil grin. What in the world is happening?
Run!
Sully's scream jolted me back to reality, and I instinctively followed her. We dashed into the storage room, and I couldn't resist asking her, "Hey, you seem to know a lot about that creepy clown statue." She didn't respond, but floated up, sending a crate crashing to the floor. There, before my eyes, was a crate of files, full of the store's dark secrets.
The clown statue is haunted by Sean. He's the one who hurt me. He would put on a Ronald McDonald costume, and since my dad was always busy, I'd come to the store alone. Sean would always treat me. One day, Sean said he would take me home instead of my dad. I went with him, but we went farther and farther, and it got darker and darker. I tried to escape, but he held me tight. I was terrified. He hurt me so badly that my soul left my body. I knew right then that I was dead. My dad thought Sean had hurt me, but he couldn't find any proof. So my dad killed him right here in front of the store. So my dad went to jail, and that guy, Sean, possessed the clown statue and started haunting me.
I couldn't believe the reason this store was closed was so terrifying. Just then, the storage room door slammed shut with a bang. "Sully, don't worry, I'm here for you." The door was kicked open, and the creepy clown appeared with a sinister laugh. He wasn't a friendly clown anymore. Inside him was a monster.
You sick bastard! I won't let you hurt anyone else.
Even though I smashed its head in, the clown statue didn't seem to care. Its smile was so taunting. The clown could even control broken bricks. I didn't see that coming. I could only cover my head.
Are you okay?
I'm fine. This statue is going down. I'm going to crush this evil statue and make that pervert Sean disappear forever. I turned him into dust. Let's see if he can come back. Finally, the clown was completely defeated. Sully ran to hug me. Now she can finally rest. To give Sully's spirit peace, I called the police to the spot where her body was buried. As she wished, I also asked her father to come and claim her body. Finally, after 23 years, her body was found. Seeing the old man, her father, sorrowfully holding his daughter's body, my heart ached. This was the last comfort for him. He finally got to meet his daughter. I did a good thing, didn't I?
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Goodbye, Sully.